Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're really digging into something heavy, a topic that carries, well, just immense emotional weight for so many people, the journey of trying to conceive.
It really does. And for many, it's marked by so much disappointment, frustration, heartbreak, really, tears.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you've been trying for a while, maybe dealing with the pain of recurrent miscarriage or, finding that the standard approaches just aren't working. It can feel like you're completely lost.
Just overwhelmed by information and maybe dashed hopes.
Absolutely. So we're diving into material from a book, Fertility Breakthrough, which seems to offer a different angle, suggesting success might lie in places we often, well, overlook.
Right.
Our mission today, to pull out the most important, maybe even surprising insights from this material. We want to understand this comprehensive, evidence-based approach it talks about for overcoming these challenges.
Okay.
So let's unpack this.
Well, the material definitely starts by acknowledging that deep emotional toll you mentioned. It makes a point that, big life achievements get lots of public recognition, but for someone struggling with infertility, that quiet, private moment of seeing a positive pregnancy test, that's the ultimate win.
That really resonates.
And the core promise here, based on the author's own journey and quite extensive clinical experience, it seems, is that it is possible to overcome these long-standing issues, even when other methods haven't worked out.
And one of the first things that jumps out right away is this challenge to the common idea that there's usually one single big reason for infertility or loss. This material says, well, maybe not.
That's really central. It argues pretty strongly that it's rarely just one obvious thing. Instead, success often gets blocked by a whole collection of what the material calls minor or subclinical factors.
Subclinical, meaning they don't quite show up on standard tests.
Exactly. Or they seem insignificant on their own. Or worse, they're just missed entirely in a standard workup. The book uses this analogy of bricks building a wall of infertility.
Okay.
So your standard test might come back looking fine, but according to this material, if you're still struggling, these minor things are almost certainly the problem in, like, the vast majority of cases.
So it's like applying the Pareto principle, that 80-20 rule. I think the material actually mentions that.
It does, yeah. The idea is that roughly 80% of the result you want a successful pregnancy can come from focusing your effort on identifying and fixing the right 20% of these root causes.
So pinpointing the right minor factors for your situation.
Precisely. Finding out which of these often overlooked things are having the biggest impact for you personally, and then addressing them systematically. That's where the breakthroughs supposedly happen.
And it gives some concrete examples, right? These minor abnormalities causing major heartache. What are some key ones?
Yeah, it's very clear you have to look at both partners. It really hammers home that this isn't just a female issue.
Oh.
For men, it talks about things like sperm shape, count, motility issues, and critically, DNA fragmentation.
DNA fragmentation. Explain that a bit.
It's basically damage to the DNA within the sperm. And the source stresses this isn't fixed. It can be hugely influenced by lifestyle, things like diet, alcohol, smoking. It points to specific research on this.
So a basic semen analysis might seem okay, but the actual quality, the DNA inside, could be compromised by how someone's living.
That's exactly the point it makes. And for women, it lists things like, well, smoking, weight issues, insulin resistance, erratic ovulation, like you often see with PCOS.
Polycystic ovary syndrome.
Yeah. Also, a history of STIs, thyroid problems, which it gets into much deeper later, endometriosis, and diminished ovarian reserve, or DOR.
Okay, quite a list.
And a key takeaway here is that not knowing what your specific minor factors are, and crucially not knowing how to effectively fix them, is flagged as a top reason why couples just keep struggling, cycle after cycle.
That makes a lot of sense. You can't solve a problem you don't fully understand or know how to tackle. And speaking of understanding, this material seems to go head-to-head with some pretty common beliefs about fertility.
Oh, definitely. It tackles several misconceptions directly. One really powerful one, misconception number 3, it calls it, is the idea that miscarriage and implantation failure are just, luck of the draw. Random bad luck you can't do anything about.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
And the source just strongly disagrees. It says they absolutely can and should be investigated. It really pushes back against that common medical practice of waiting until someone's had, say, 3 miscarriages before doing a full workup.
Right, which can feel like an eternity when you're going through it.
Exactly. It highlights the immense trauma that waiting causes, especially, it notes, after the 8-week mark. It argues for thorough investigation much, much sooner.
That feels really important considering the emotional toll. What about low AMH?
Mm-hmm.
That hormone level often presented as a major barrier.
Anti-Mullerian hormone, yeah. That's Deception 5. That low AMH automatically means you need egg donation, or IVF, basically RT.
That's the only way.
Right. And the material uses this really compelling story, Jenny's story. Despite low AMH, she apparently conceived naturally at 39 after 20 failed IVF rounds.
20 rounds. Wow.
Yeah. And the key, according to the source, was simply addressing these underlying minor factors. Her story is presented as proof from this perspective that low AMH doesn't automatically slam the door shut on other options.
20 failed rounds. Then
Yeah.
natural conception just by changing things. That's
Yeah.
quite an illustration. And it really ties back to that persistent and frankly outdated idea that infertility is mostly a woman's issue.
That's misconception 6, and the material is a great analogy for this one.
Oh, yeah.
It says saying infertility is only a woman's issue is like saying synchronized swimming is a solo sport.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, that paints a picture.
It couldn't be clearer the male contribution is absolutely mission critical. It points out that men often just aren't evaluated properly. Some couples try for years, apparently, without the guy even getting an updated semen analysis.
Really? That seems basic.
You'd think so. But the material stresses that biology changes. Past results aren't, a lifetime guarantee.
Good point. And what if male factors are found? Is the only option IVF or ICSI, like misconception 7 suggests?
ICSI being the direct sperm injection into the egg.
Right.
Again, the material challenges this. It argues that you need to understand the why behind the male infertility diagnosis, not just accept the label and jump to treatment. It lists other potential factors, anatomical issues, congenital problems, genetic things, making the case that addressing these root causes is key rather than just bypassing them with technology.
So it's really pushing for a deeper understanding of the health of both partners, not just finding a way to get pregnant.
Exactly. Which leads naturally into this whole idea that fertility is genuinely a team sport. The relationship dynamic itself is presented as crucial.
Yeah, how does it frame that?
Well, it calls it a critical mistake when men are excluded, consciously or unconsciously, from the process. It uses that tandem bike analogy if only one person's pedaling hard.
The other one feels like they're dragging or getting blamed.
Right. It breeds resentment, negative feelings. Success, according to this source, absolutely requires both partners fully engaged, pedaling together.
And it brings in that idea of taking ownership, being above the line versus below the line.
Yes.
Yes.
Below the line is like the victim stance, blaming, making excuses, denying. Above the line is about taking ownership, being accountable, taking responsibility for your part. The material actually encourages you, the listener, to think honestly, where are you playing in your relationship dynamic around this? Are you maybe contributing to the struggle by staying below the line?
That's a tough question to ask yourself, but probably necessary. It sounds like this journey can either tear a couple apart or potentially bring them closer.
It really can be either. The source shares stories, like one about Allison and Phil, where having structured support apparently helped keep the husband involved and made them feel like a proper team.
That's good to hear.
And the author reflects personally, too, saying relationship patterns often need internal change first. That classic idea of be the change you want to see.
So it's not just about demands, but changing your own approach, too, and showing support actively.
Definitely. More than just words, it suggests practical things, like an exercise where you each list, say, 50 things the other person does that makes you feel loved.
50? That's a lot.
It is,
Yeah.
but it forces you to really think. Then you share the lists and actually do those things. It also mentions another resource, a book called Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay. For couples really struggling with the relationship itself during this stressful time, the bottom line is, like any strong bond, it needs work, conscious effort.
Okay, shifting gears a bit now. The material also gets very practical about optimizing your body and your environment, starting with diet, not just eating healthy, but eating specifically for reproductive balance.
Right. The core idea is fresh, unprocessed food, preferably organic or biodynamic. It uses this simple, real food test with corn as an example.
Corn, how does that work?
Well, corn on the cob, that's basically one step from the field. That's real food. Canned corn. A few more steps, some processing. Tortilla chips, many steps, lots of processing, added chemicals. That's not real food.
Okay, I get it. Keep it close to nature.
Yeah, the guideline mentioned is aim for a maximum of like 3 steps from field to plate.
And it specifically calls out some fertility killers to avoid.
It does. 3 main ones: gluten, dairy, and trans fats.
Okay, let's break those down. Gluten.
It argues that even if you don't have full-blown celiac disease, gluten sensitivity can be linked to infertility and miscarriage, and it's often missed by standard tests. The suggestion is try cutting it out completely for a few months, then reintroduce it and see if you notice any symptoms, even subtle ones, even if you think you're fine with it.
Interesting. So it's about potential low-grade inflammation or immune reactions. What about dairy?
Dairy gets flagged as highly inflammatory, potentially allergenic, mucus-forming, and linked to hormonal imbalances and even triggering genetic predispositions in some people. Based on the clinical results presented, the source actually recommends avoiding it completely, regardless of whether you think you're sensitive to it or not.
Okay, quite strict on dairy. And the third one, the #1 fertility killer.
Trans fats. The material is really blunt about this. These are the artificial fats made through hydrogenation. You find them in tons of stuff: baked goods, packaged snacks, fried foods, margarine, even some non-dairy coffee creamers.
Right, the stuff that lasts forever on the shelf.
Pretty much. And the source quotes research suggesting a really dramatic impact. Just a 2% increase in your daily calories coming from trans fats was linked to a 73% increased risk of infertility because of ovulation problems.
73% from just 2% of calories. Wow.
It's a staggering number. And they're also linked to male infertility, issues with sperm quality, egg quality. It's presented as something absolutely critical to eliminate from your diet.
Okay, that's a powerful statistic. But making big dietary changes like cutting out gluten, dairy, and trans fats, that can feel really hard for people.
Oh, for sure. And the material acknowledges that. It apparently includes tools like something called its Life Changer method, specifically designed to help people overcome those mental hurdles and practical challenges to make these kinds of big shifts actually stick.
Good to know there's support for the how-to. Beyond food, what about our environment? Those endocrine-disrupting chemicals or EDCs.
Yeah, this gets a lot of emphasis too. EDCs are in so many everyday things: fragrances in perfumes and air fresheners, cleaning supplies, personal care products like lotions and shampoos, pesticides, even food storage containers.
So basically everywhere.
Pretty much. And the assertion is stark. Both your fertility and your long-term health are categorically at stake with constant exposure. It lists specific things to avoid: synthetic fragrances or parfum, parabens, phthalates, triclosan, BPA and BPS plastics, non-stick coatings like Teflon.
So the nonstick pan, the plastic water bottle, the scented laundry detergent, these could all be part of the problem.
Potentially, yes. The recommendations lean towards simple, safer swaps mentioned in the material, things like using plain old vinegar and baking soda for cleaning, switching to cast iron, glass, or stainless steel for cooking and storing food.
Back to basics. Kinda.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
It also adds a note of caution about essential oils, suggesting avoiding direct skin contact or using specific oils that are listed as potentially problematic during conception, attempts, or pregnancy.
It's really eye-opening how many common household items get flagged. Okay, moving to another fundamental area. The connection between stress, sleep, and exercise.
Yes, these are seen as absolute foundations for health. And the material explains how chronic stress, especially, just throws your body completely out of whack. It disrupts homeostasis.
Homeostasis, meaning balance.
Exactly. Stress basically puts your body into survival mode. Think ancient human running from a predator. In that state, your body diverts energy away from functions it deems non-essential for immediate survival, and that includes reproduction.
Your body's not thinking about making a baby when it thinks it's about to be eaten.
Precisely. And that survival mode has specific impacts on fertility. For men, stress boosts oxidative stress, which directly harms sperm, affecting count, motility, DNA integrity, shape. It can also contribute to sexual issues.
And for women,
for women, really high stress can actually suppress or even completely stop ovulation and periods. It messes with how eggs mature and release, it can prevent a fertilized egg from implanting properly in the uterus, and it increases the risk of miscarriage.
wow. So stress is a major player.
Huge. And a key point the source makes is that stressing about being stressed about fertility just adds another layer to the problem. It creates this vicious cycle.
Right, the anxiety feeds itself.
It really can. And this is where getting enough sleep, the ideal, is usually cited as 7 to 9 hours. And getting regular, appropriate exercise becomes so important as countermeasures.
How does exercise help specifically?
Well, it helps regulate hormones. improves blood sugar control, which is crucial, boosts your mood. And the source mentions studies showing benefits like better sperm DNA quality in men and similar positive effects for women's reproductive health.
Does the material suggest practical ways to actually manage stress? It's easy to say reduce stress, harder to do.
It does offer some strategies, starting with just identifying what your specific stressors actually are, then consciously scheduling downtime, real relaxation time. Simple things too, listening to music, physical touch or massage, planning romantic time away, even deliberately seeking out laughter.
Laughter, really?
Yeah, it mentions studies linking humor and laughter to improved IVF success rates, believe it or not. It's about actively building in moments to decompress.
Interesting. Okay, so all these factors, diet, environment, stress, sleep, exercise, they all seem to point back to the materials argument that standard fertility testing might just be scratching the surface, that we need to dig deeper.
That's a really major theme. The source argues strongly that standard tests often miss these subtle subclinical issues, things that might be technically within the normal range for general health, but are actually suboptimal when it comes to reproduction.
You give an example.
The thyroid is a classic one it uses.
Yeah.
Standard tests might measure your TSH thyroid stimulating hormone, and maybe it comes back at, say, 2.75. The lab report says normal because the general range might go up to 4 or 5.
Okay.
But the material points out many international fertility societies actually recommend further investigation or even treatment for women trying to conceive if their TSH is above 2.5, especially if they have a history of infertility or miscarriage.
So normal isn't necessarily optimal for fertility.
That's the argument, precisely. Subclinical hypothyroidism, where TSH is a bit high, but other thyroid hormones might still be technically normal, is often missed, but it's strongly linked in the literature to problems with implantation.
Okay, that's a really clear example.
And the material apparently outlines a more comprehensive thyroid testing protocol they use, looking beyond just TSH to things like TRH, specific antibodies, the whole picture. It's about finding optimal function, not just spotting obvious disease, and critically, connecting those lab results back to your symptoms and your history.
That level of detail requires real commitment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A certain mindset, which the material also seems to cover. It's not just about hoping things get better.
No, that's a critical piece. The source makes a very clear distinction between taking charge versus being sort of a victim of your circumstances.
Yeah.
It talks about learned helplessness.
Living helpless.
Yeah, it explains it has 3 parts. Believing failure is permanent, it'll never happen. That it's pervasive, this means everything is ruined. And personalization, it's all my fault. This mindset, the source argues, actively blocks progress and causes a lot of extra suffering.
But it also suggests you can change that resilience isn't fixed.
Absolutely. It suggests you can build resilience. And this is where it introduces the life changer method, again, as a specific tool for shifting your mindset and breaking habits that aren't helping your fertility goals.
Okay, how does that method work?
Step 1 is called face it. It means getting really clear about the situation, but without the emotional charge or judgment. So framing it like, I keep eating junk food when I feel stressed, instead of, I'm a total failure with no self-control.
Okay, objective observation. Then what?
Then you ask this clarifying question it presents. What's the one thing I can do right now that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? It helps you focus on finding a single high-impact action.
The one domino to push.
Kind of, yeah. Then, implicitly, the next step involves really exploring the consequences, listing the costs of staying stuck in the old behavior and the benefits of making the change. And it emphasizes writing down lots of answers, maybe 30 to 50 for each.
30 to 50 reasons. Why so many?
To really dig deep, using prompts like, what will this cost me down the road emotionally, financially, physically? How does it affect my relationships, my future dreams? The material shares some powerful stories, like the author using this to break a chocolate habit by deeply connecting it emotionally to a loved one's health issues. It shows how this detailed listing creates that strong emotional drive you need for real change.
Connecting the why to the what makes sense. And step 3.
Step 3 is about practicing emotional processing, using techniques like the RAIN method. Recognize the feeling, allow it, inquire gently into it, and non-identify with it to handle the discomfort, the cravings, the anxiety when it comes up, without automatically reacting or judging yourself.
So you learn to sit with the discomfort.
Exactly. To flow with those difficult feelings instead of being rigidly controlled by them or trying to just suppress them. But it stresses this isn't a magic bullet. It's an ongoing practice, like bathing or the Japanese concept of Kaizen continuous improvement. It takes consistent practice and conditioning.
So the choice it presents is learn how to navigate challenges and grow, or stay stuck and just suffer.
That's the core message on mindset, yeah. Choose to learn through love, proactive change, or learn through pain the consequences of staying put.
This whole systematic approach, pulling together the deep investigation, the lifestyle stuff, the mindset work, this seems to be what the author calls the Fertility method.
Yes, exactly. That method is presented as the result of the author's years of clinical experience and data collection. It's positioned as a comprehensive, multi-specialist strategy, and it's highlighted as being fundamentally different from the common path of rushing into medical treatments without that thorough groundwork.
Can you walk through the steps?
Yeah.
Fertile.
Sure. F is for fact find. That's the comprehensive assessment, physical, emotional, biochemical, to find all those puzzle pieces, the minor and major contributing factors.
Okay.
E is for educate. This is seen as crucial. Understanding why a change matters is key for motivating you to actually stick with it consistently.
Right, the why behind the what are.
R is recommend. This involves personalized, evidence-based recommendations based on that initial fact-finding. The focus is on what the material calls a biological cleanup, optimizing everything.
And T.
T is treat. And the material makes a big point that treat is the fourth step, not the first.
Right, unlike maybe jumping straight to IVF.
Exactly. The argument is you identify the issues and optimize the foundations before considering or proceeding with treatments. The material also mentions a framework called the 11 Pillars of Fertility Foundations.
Okay. And does it mention success rates with this method?
It does. It cites a specific success rate for its program, the Natural Fertility Breakthrough program, which uses this method. For couples over 40, often with long histories of infertility or recurrent miscarriage, who complete the program, it claims a 78.15% success rate.
78%. For that group, that's high.
It is presented as significantly higher than typical IVF or ICSI success rates for that age group, which are often quoted around 25–30%. It really underscores the potential impact, according to this source, of this comprehensive root cause approach.
Those numbers are definitely compelling, especially for people who've maybe been told their chances are very low. It highlights the potential of addressing those overlooked factors.
It really does. And the material circles back to emphasize that time can be critical, especially if, you've been trying for more than 2 years, you've had any miscarriages, you suspect multiple minor factors are at play, or you've already had failed RT cycles. The message is pretty clear. Don't wait too long, but also don't rush into strategies that aren't complete.
So it sounds like it requires a really conscious decision. How far are you truly willing to go? And getting clear on why you want to be a parent in the first place.
Yes, the material actually poses that question directly. What is most important to me, the means of getting to baby, or the baby itself? It clarifies that this kind of intensive, comprehensive approach is really for those who are ready for that full commitment.
Who does it say is a good fit?
It describes the ideal candidate as someone trying for over 2 years, maybe experienced miscarriages, likely has 3 or more of those minor factors, perhaps had failed treatments already, and crucially is willing to invest the necessary time, effort, and resources, and importantly, be coachable through the process.
And this whole approach is positioned quite differently from what the material describes as the typical mainstream medical experience, right?
Yeah, the contrast is drawn pretty sharply. It characterizes the mainstream path as often involving brief consultations, maybe quick referrals to IVF, often lacking detailed lifestyle counseling, sometimes just repeating failed cycles without really digging deeper into why they failed, and potentially overlooking the evidence on optimizing health first.
So it suggests the standard system might not be set up perfectly for tackling these really complex multifactorial situations.
That seems to be the implication, that while interventions like IVF are crucial tools, the system itself might not always integrate this deep foundational health optimization effectively. So this material essentially presents itself as offering you the knowledge and a different kind of framework to take charge of your own fertility journey.
This has been, well, incredibly insightful. It really does offer a different lens on infertility and miscarriage, moving away from seeking just one simple answer or a quick fix towards this really comprehensive, multi-layered approach.
Yeah. Highlighting those often missed minor factors, the absolute need for teamwork between partners, the real power of lifestyle and environment, looking beyond just the standard tests, and that vital role of mindset and commitment.
And it makes a strong case that a systematic strategy, like the FERTILE method it outlines, could offer a significantly better chance of success even when things seem really difficult or other methods haven't worked. It's all about understanding the whole picture, isn't it?
Hmm.
And then taking ownership.
Taking ownership and taking consistent action based on that understanding.
Absolutely. And listening to all this, knowing what we've discussed from this material, it really leaves you with a pretty important question, doesn't it? For you, the listener. What is the ultimate cost of delaying the changes you now know you might need to make?